Tampa Division Mark Brutinel, as well as Colonel Anthony Collins from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. This is an announcement and an event that is a long time coming. From concept to implementation, a lot of folks pitched in to get the funding and the personnel and the training accomplished so that we could make today's announcement. As many of you know, and I certainly know Floridians that are watching understand, because they have loved ones, sometimes senior family members or loved ones who have fallen prey more and more to online criminal activity. And we are seeing law enforcement investigations in Florida intersecting with illicit online activity exploding. Internet-based crime is one of the fastest growing security threats we face. In the first half of last year alone, more than 53 million Americans were affected by cybercrime. According to a report from the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center, more than 40,000 Floridians lost nearly $845 million to cybercrimes in 2022. According to the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, 47% of Americans, 47%, almost half of Americans have had their personal information exposed by cybercriminals. Cybercrime is growing so fast that law enforcement agencies are increasing personnel, increasing training, and trying to commit resources to keep up with this whole new world of opportunity for criminals and bad actors. And so this often creates a gap. We know as the internet and familiarity with online activity increased across our nation, the federal government was taking on a bulk of those complex cybersecurity investigations, and oftentimes, because of the demand for resources, the larger cases got a lot of the attention, leaving many folks of small businesses or individuals going and trying to seek help from those agencies, and we needed a specialized trained force here in the state to supplement those federal efforts. And so today's announcement is very exciting for the state of Florida. It's the first time we have had a statewide multi-agency unit with specifically trained, specially trained prosecutors, civil attorneys, analysts to combat cybercrime in Florida. This is a team behind me here that is very excited because getting the personnel in place, making sure that they were trained and ready to go and begin serving Floridians who have fallen victim to cybercrime has been an effort over the past few years, and we are so excited today to announce our cybercrime unit, as well as some of the victories that they have already achieved. So today, standing with me is FDLE and other law enforcement leaders as we announce Florida's Cyber Fraud Enforcement Unit. Just last week, we took down a complex cybercrime ring that used cryptocurrency and illicit websites to launder money and exploit massive amounts of stolen identities. And that was just the most recent success of this Cyber Fraud Enforcement Unit. We also worked with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office right here in Hillsborough County, and I'm so glad that Colonel Collins is here with us today. We stopped a fraudster here in Hillsborough County who used privileged access to a company's computer systems to adjust personal pay and included fraudulent and bogus overtime payouts of more than $100,000. We've also worked with the Sarasota County Sheriff to apprehend a fugitive who had fled to Texas after charging more than $150,000 to credit cards created using personal information of 20 victims across the state of Florida and internationally. We also have gone after a cyber fraud criminal who was targeting senior citizens using tech support scams and pop-ups on their computer saying they could help them fix their computer or fortify their computer, and instead they were trying to steal money and get their personal information. So our unit is now fully staffed and seeing successes, and we often know that part of combating this type of crime is making sure that we're preventing it in the first place. And so you might have seen over the last few years, the Attorney General's office has increased our efforts to make sure the public is ahead of trends, that they're aware of things that we are seeing, that criminals are using online to expose their personal information or even their hard-earned assets, many folks that have saved their entire lives to come to Florida and live out their golden years. We've recovered already hundreds of thousands of dollars for victims of cybercrimes. And we'll soon have more announcements about the successes from the folks standing behind me, not only attorneys and analysts, but sworn law enforcement that are working so hard. Again, this is an entire new world. It's not only a world of opportunity and productivity and efficiency and a way to socially engage, it also opens up a way for criminals to take advantage of Floridians using new tactics, new schemes, new tools. And so coupled with our informational strategy and agenda that we have in the office to make sure consumers in Florida know about the recent trends, we now have an enforcement team that is highly trained and passionate about the work that they are doing. You're going to hear from some of these folks in just a minute, but I want to make sure that I am conveying to Floridians what you can do to stay ahead of criminals that are going through the internet or the cyber world to try and take advantage of you. If you become a victim of cybercrime, make sure immediately you go to all of your electronic devices and secure them, and that means change your password, especially where you have sensitive information stored. Preserve evidence. Take screenshots or gather any relevant information that can serve as evidence of the cyber crime. The folks behind me and others will want to see that, and it will help them more quickly respond to your complaint. Report cybercrime. Many times I think folks feel like it's overwhelming. They're so busy locking down their credit cards and making sure they're changing passwords. If we do not stop cyber criminals, if you are a victim and do not help us stop them, they will take advantage of others. And so report it. Report it to local law enforcement. You can go to FDLE's Computer Crime Center. You can also report it to the federal government, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, by visiting ic3.gov. Notify your financial institutions immediately. Notify all of your credit card companies. They will freeze those and most likely will direct you to get in touch with credit reporting agencies. And check your statements for identity theft. Many of the cases that we've talked about and that we've seen success on, they stole identities from multiple victims. Many times the difference between a regular case of theft or fraud and a cyber fraud or cyber theft is the number of victims that they can reach by using technology. And then update the security measures on your computers or smartphones. All of them have ways that you can up-to-date antivirus software, firewalls, security patches, make sure those are installed. Regularly update your operating systems. Those are generally being pushed through your phones. And remember that prevention, as we talked about, is critical. Be cautious when sharing personal information. Avoid clicking on suspicious links or downloading unknown attachments, and regularly back up important data to a secure location. I am incredibly proud of this new unit. Floridians should be proud of the efforts of the folks standing behind me, but those across the state that are working in tandem, going and receiving specialized training to make sure that they are on the front lines. It is incredibly important, as these criminals like to lurk in the dark recesses of the cyber world, that we have folks that can meet them in that venue, seek them out, destroy those schemes and structures, and put those criminals behind bars like we do every other criminal. And so we're excited about today's announcement. We appreciate you being here to help us share this information and to also get out tips and prevention suggestions to Floridians. And without further ado, I will bring up Special Agent in Charge, Mark Brutinel.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, AG Moody. Thank you for your constant support of FDLE and Florida's law enforcement community. I'm Tampa Bay Special Agent in Charge, Mark Brutinel, and it's my privilege to be here as we announce FDLE's cybercrime fraud team in conjunction with the Office of Statewide Prosecution. When Commissioner Glass began his tenure, he laid out several priorities for our agency. One of those is to maximize our cyber resources. And with the leadership of Attorney General Moody, FDLE was able to establish a dedicated cyber fraud unit with 6 crime intelligence analysts, a supervisor, in addition to a full-time prosecutor, Joe Spataro, who's here with us today. Thank you, Joe. This unit will keep Florida citizens safe by investigating and stopping these pervasive crimes. These analysts are on the front lines, researching cybercrime and criminal organizations, identifying the players, learning how these crimes work and who is being victimized. They are focused on the latest trends and tools to proactively stop these crimes. And because cybercrimes often occur in multiple jurisdictions, they'll provide information to our law enforcement partners at all levels, including internationally if need be. The analysts you see behind me today are driven to solve crimes and act as a resource for other criminal justice agencies. This unit was established in May, but they've already moved cases forward, closing down criminal enterprises and providing information to our agents leading an arrest. The general referenced a case recently in Orlando, which was taken down last week, and in that case, there was more than 70 victims defrauded in 10 businesses. FDLE Cyber Fraud Unit was instrumental in identifying how the scheme worked and who was involved. They worked closely with AG Moody's Office of Statewide Prosecution to shut down the criminal organization and the websites, more importantly, selling the personal information. This is just one example of the great work these analysts are doing every day. And for our citizens, I would be remiss if I didn't mention another FDLE resource. Secure Florida offers a variety of cyber safety tips, including resources for businesses, individuals, and parents on best practices to stay cyber safe. You can visit them online at secureflorida.org. And as AG Moody mentioned, if you have information about a cybercrime, report it to FDLE. Just in the last 30 days, this unit has received 5 cryptocurrency broker complaints. The initial investigation by the analysts has identified 5 different scams with at least 12 victims each. That's 60 victims already. Our victims' fraud losses range from $25,000 to $500,000. Some, if not all, start as a romance scam that leads our victims to fraudulent cryptocurrency brokers. Again, you can call FDLE's Tampa office to report a cybercrime or visit our website on the homepage. Again, thank you for your leadership, AG Moody. That is true leadership. She identified a problem and she found the solution, and what you see here today is that solution, and we're very excited about this opportunity. Thank you. Colonel Collins?
Go ahead.
Good morning. I'd like to just say, wow. Just when you think that Attorney General Moody has done everything that she can and everything that's possible to keep this Floridian safe, here we are with another program, implementation of another program, and always taking a step further to go beyond what the standard is and exceeding that standard. And so we couldn't be any more grateful to have Attorney General and partner with the statewide prosecutor's office and also FDLE. You know, Sheriff Cronster and the Hills County Sheriff's Office is completely committed to keeping our citizens safe, whether that's physically or digitally. We will not allow for anybody to be victimized in Hillsborough County. And we're frequently reminded by Sheriff Cronster about the big population boom in Hillsborough County and how many people are flocking to this region. And this is another reason why people continue to come to Hillsborough County, and more importantly, why they continue to come to Florida, is because the people like Attorney General Moody continue to keep us safe, and programs like this and our partners like SAC Brutinel over at FDLE continue to ensure that we have a great relationship and put together the best outcome for the citizens of Hillsborough County.
Thank you, Colonel. So you can probably hear that we are excited about this new unit. They've already started racking up successes. We expect great things from them. And more importantly, we are incredibly proud to report back to the citizens of this state that we are working hard to stay ahead of any gaps in law enforcement, any gaps in the protection or diligence of following up when folks have been taken advantage of. And we hope you'll help us do that. Anytime you see what we can do better, or if you feel you have been a victim, please take that extra step and report it. It helps us serve you. Any questions?
You know, we've seen recently, I think just this week or the last 2 weeks, some companies like HCA and Zoo Tampa and then Aspen Dental back in May, all be victims of major hacks. Will this unit be working with, in those kinds of cases, how will they be work together to, I guess maybe address some of the more local victims in cases like that?
Those are dealing with breaches and there are statutes and reporting requirements and things that address breaches of security and information. This unit is specifically focused on cyber fraud and cyber theft. A lot of our cases will result from incidents like that, meaning a lot of the criminals will get their hands on personal identification information, social security numbers, credit card information. That information is compiled, bundled on the dark web, and sold to criminals. A lot of these cases will involve that. There are other mechanisms and investigators to deal with what you're talking about, which is actually breach of secure information, but these guys will be busy as a result of it.
Can you talk about the funding for those new units?
Yes, thank you. And we're so grateful to the legislature, I should say, Speaker Renner, President Pasadomo. We've been pushing for years to get dedicated FDLE agents. Now, we've always had FDLE agents, and I don't, but we wanted specifically trained dedicated agents and analysts. So as you can imagine, making sure we can retain and keep analysts that are trained in cyber is incredibly important. Just as private businesses are concerned with that, law enforcement is concerned with that. And so I thank the leadership in this last session and Governor DeSantis for understanding that this was so important. And we did this last year, and we've been hiring and making sure we had the right people in place. And I'm so proud of the folks behind me that did that, and we're up and running and fully staffed, and it really is a good day for Florida.
And what was the budget?
I'll leave that to Brunel.
Well, we were able to receive 6 full-time employment positions through the diligence of AG Moody. And like I said earlier, I mean, she identified this, I don't know off the top of my head, but like I said earlier, she identified this problem several years ago and put into place this program, and here we are today. It's already immediately paying dividends. So it's a win-win for the citizens of Florida.
And I just want to make sure I follow up on that. This team will work in tandem with not only our federal partners and not only other statewide agents that are always doing some of this work, but they'll also work with local agencies. And so as you see, we're standing up here with Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office today, and I mentioned earlier we're working with Sarasota County Sheriffs. So what this will do is it will have a unit of trained analysts, trained lawyers, trained agents that can work in a specialized way and serve as a resource to our local agencies, whether that's a county sheriff's office or a local police department. This is going to pay dividends for the state of Florida.
How frustrating is it to see, it seems like in a lot of these cases, these criminals are targeting some of the more vulnerable populations in our community. How concerning and frustrating is that for you?
It's incredibly frustrating. As you know, when I took office as Attorney General, protecting seniors was one of my priorities. We immediately created an interagency working group, task force. I thank our statewide prosecutor, Nick Cox, who helped develop that team. We've seen great successes, but protecting our most vulnerable populations, it really is and probably drives the service of the majority of folks up here, whether they're an attorney who's making a lot less than they could make in the private sector, or whether they've dedicated their professional career to wearing a badge. Knowing every day that you're waking up and protecting folks that cannot or may not have the ability to protect themselves, that is a driving force. And so, before we came out here today, there was a lot of celebration in the sense that we have moved the ball forward in terms of being better prepared, better trained to go after criminals. That is something for me personally that has driven me not only to ask Floridians to hire me to do this job, but in creating new units like this, seeking out new funding where it may not have been dedicated before. It drives me, and I know it drives everybody behind us, standing here today.
General Moody, can I ask you the letter you sent to Attorney General Merrick Garland last week
Sure.
regarding California's request to investigate the migrant flight to Sacramento a couple months ago? And basically, it was a very aggressive letter you wrote. I think you're questioning the impartiality of Attorney General investigating that. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. It was a very unique thing to have a governor and an attorney general of a state. So I want to put this in perspective. You had a governor and attorney general of a state, while other states, other municipalities, other jurisdictions have been doing the exact same thing in terms of assisting and transporting folks that have come into our country, asking the Department of Justice with no legal basis, no citation to a federal statute that's been violated, no citation to any law, nothing, asking the DOJ to investigate another state and a governor. With all of the doubts of impartiality that exist right now in this country, that creates such an appearance, that an expectation that our federal government would take a unique instance like that with no grounding in legal justification and politically, because for political reasons, investigate another governor and another state. As the Attorney General of the state of Florida, in responding to the Attorney General and a governor in another state, it was incumbent upon me to point out, you cited no law, you mentioned no other jurisdiction, whether it was led by a Republican or a Democrat that's doing the exact same thing, as being part of your requested investigation or litigation. And we'll fight back. I mean, Florida has fought this administration at every turn on some of the very dangerous policies and implementation of those policies, and we've had success. You know, I have a lot of experience in my background, not just as a private lawyer, but as a federal prosecutor myself. And you have to have people that will not just stand by and say, oh, nobody's going to think anything of that. Just let them say what they're going to say. Just let them puff politically. But what happened was they started investigating. They even sent people here to Florida. You think that governor and that attorney general sent people anywhere else besides the state of Florida? And you think they sent them to New York City? You have them using state resources to come into our state to accuse us some politically driven investigation. So no, I'm not going to sit back and let that happen and not point out what everyone can see, that that was a political stunt, not a legal request, because folks need to trust. As a former judge, as a former federal prosecutor, I have such great respect for the strength and independence and impartiality of our systems of government. It is what has kept this country stable and successful as long as we have been a nation. And we as a people have to demand that that continues. And so that is why I wrote the letter. That is why it is imperative that if that happens again, and any other state or any other governor is confronted with that same thing, they also speak out, because the American people deserve better. That's all the questions we're going to take today. Thank you so much.